Hello, my name is Thomas Buck, and I'll be presenting on adapting to ethnic and cultural diversity in Minnesota. According to the 2015 census data, the percentage of Minnesotans of African, Asian Pacific, and Latino descent has increased 119% since 1990. The U.S. Census Bureau projects that Minnesota will continue to have increased demographic shifts, with cities across the state becoming more diverse. It is important for communities to be aware of the opportunities and challenges that exist, as well as how they can adapt to build more inclusive communities. As mentioned, Minnesota's minority population has grown rapidly since 1990 and now makes up nearly 20% of the state's residents, or 1 million people. Much of that growth was driven by waves of immigrants and refugees from Asia and Africa. These two pie charts better illustrate the shifts in the ethnic, cultural, and racial makeup of Minnesota over the last 55 years. In general, while Minnesota still has proportionately fewer immigrants than the U.S. as a whole, 8% compared with 13% nationally, about 428,000 Minnesota residents are foreign-born, including many refugees who fled their home countries. 1 in 6 children, ages 0 to 19, have at least one immigrant parent. As a result, the cultural comparison of Minnesota's 853 cities has changed significantly over the past 2 decades. The most significant challenges faced by Minnesotans in regards to increased diversity, especially when related to immigration, are language barriers, housing shortages, education gaps, support network failures, and racism among community members. For centuries, Minnesota has been home to people of widely varied cultural heritages. Understanding and responding to these demographic changes can provide your community with opportunities. For example, ethnic populations contribute significantly to the economic base of Minnesota communities through an estimated $8 billion in buying power. In addition, diversity initiates innovation, inspires entrepreneurship, creates new markets, and provides a stable workforce. When dealing with complex economic or social challenges, Minnesota's growing diversity offers the benefit of flexibility, allowing it a wider range of perspectives and a larger variety of resources than might be available in a more homogeneous community. A larger diversity of backgrounds, skills, histories, and talents makes any community better equipped to deal with complex and unexpected problems. This table and graph better illustrate the range of incomes and the median incomes among the various ethnic and racial groups in Minnesota. In general, the median or midpoint income of households indicates the resources available to the typical household of a group. Half of the households earn more than the median, while half earn less. Unlike the poverty measure, median household incomes is not adjusted for household size. Therefore, a higher share of one-earner households will serve to pull the median lower for that group. Additionally, higher incomes will not stretch as far when there are more household members to support on that income. Minnesota's Asian Indian, Filipino, and Chinese households have the highest median income of any group presented here, at just over $89,000, $74,000, and $71,000 respectively. The Somali households have the lowest median income of any cultural group presented here, at about $18,000, followed by Ojibwe or African American households, similarly situated at about $28,000. In this table and graph better illustrate the education points mentioned earlier. Adults who attain a 4-year college degree or higher educational attainment experience economic outcomes superior to those with less education, including lower unemployment, higher immediate and lifetime earnings, and greater employment stability, advancement potential, and likelihood of receiving employment benefits. Unemployment among Minnesotans 25 to 64 who held a bachelor's or higher degree was 3% during 2010 through 2015, compared to 7% for those with only a high school diploma and 13% for those without a high school diploma. Communities with more highly educated residents typically experience higher rates of voting, civic engagement, and better health outcomes. Here are 3 reasons why communities should adapt. 1 is civic duty. City officials are elected and appointed to ensure residents receive quality state services, to engage them in the city's governance process, and to lead the community in setting and achieving a shared vision of the future. Without active civic engagement, citizens lose their sense of being responsible citizens and accountable for their community. When the level of engagement is increased, their sense of inclusion expands. Another reason is the reduction of liability issues. Serious liability issues can arise if communities do not comply with civil rights laws. From public safety to employment practices, city officials need to be cognizant of the liability risks they face and work to reduce those risks. By recognizing, supporting, and enforcing the civil rights laws, we develop a more intrinsic equity agenda that ensures a safer community. And finally, community harmony. Community residents likely have various expectations about the assimilation of newcomers, both in the level and speed of adopting community norms, such as speaking English as their primary language. Bilateral assimilation, where both long-term residents and newcomers modify behaviors and expectations to accommodate each other, may be the approach that best prevents conflict and results in community harmony. While today the differences between people of Norwegian and Irish and Czech descent may not seem so stark, each group of new arrivals in Minnesota has been seen as different, and many have felt unwelcome. Today's new Minnesotans often have a similar experience. To help people feel more welcome, communities can adapt in several ways. Communities can connect with the populations that live and work in the community, as well as with the leaders of not-for-profits, businesses, and other community institutions around the goal of making the community welcoming and inclusive. Communities can also examine proposed and existing city policies and procedures to determine if they have a potentially discriminatory impact. If so, the community should work with the city to modify or eliminate those policies and procedures. Communities can examine the city's housing and economic development efforts to ensure they reflect the changing demographics, and communities can also initiate a community-wide or region-wide effort to develop translation and interpretation services that the city, healthcare providers, businesses, and social service organizations can jointly fund and jointly utilize. Communities can commit to a long-term effort to build an inclusive community by developing a community-wide, multi-year plan, working in partnership with ethnic populations, and integrating such a plan into the community's long-range strategic vision. Also, community members can educate new residents, especially ethnic populations, about city government, laws, and regulations, and the rationale behind them. Community members can educate new residents about the community's settlement history. And community residents or members can learn about cultural similarities and differences related to the community's populations, as well as key phrases in the most common languages spoken. And finally, community members can commit individually and as a society to ensure that racism and prejudice are not tolerated in their community. In summary, the changing demographics in Minnesota pose many challenges and opportunities for communities, but learning to adapt to these changes can allow communities to capitalize on the range of differences in the community and intentionally seek ways to utilize the diverse backgrounds, experiences, and skills for the benefits of the community as a whole.